Sri Jagannath Moharana, lecturer in logic and philosophy, Nayagada Autonomous College, Nayagada. As he belongs to the Department of Philosophy of Pramod sir. Today, Jagannath Moharana will speak on the concept mind, philosophy, the philosophy of Descartes and Samkhya. And his paper is guided by Professor Pramod Kumar Das. So now Professor Jagannath will reflect upon his idea on the concept of mind from the philosophy of Descartes and Samkhya. I welcome Professor Jagannath Moharana to our webinar, and I request him to commence his talk. Over to Sri Jagannath.
Namaskar, good evening. Respected judges, professor, respected the guide of this paper, Professor Pramod Kumar Das sir, all the participants, and my student friends. My topic is the concept of mind, the philosophy of Descartes and Samkhya. Philosophy of mind consists of several fundamental questions, namely, what is mind, what is its nature, is it material or immaterial, how it is related to the body, etc. Among these, one problem is very much important from the point of view of this paper, which is the problem of instructionism or mind-body problem. This problem is the consequence of Descartes' dualism. René Descartes puts the mind into an immaterial or non-physical realm, while the body is into a material or physical realm. But the problem arises when he claims that there is a causal relationship between these two opposite substances. If mind and body are two opposite substances, then how do they interact? There are plenty of theories in the field of philosophy of mind which have tried to respond to this problem, but not a single theory of them could give a satisfactory explanation to this problem. So, this problem as of now remains as it is. In this paper, I will analyze this issue from another angle, that is from the perspective of the Samkhya system of Indian philosophy. We will consider whether the dualism of Samkhya could be a better answer to the problem of instructionism or not. In other words, can Samkhya be a solution to the problem of instructionism? This is the primary objective of this present paper. In this first part of this paper, I will give a brief explanation of Descartes' dualism and the problem of instructionism. In the second half, I will discuss Samkhya dualism and would compare it with Descartes' dualism. And in the third part, we will see whether Samkhya dualism successfully eradicates the instructionism problem or not. Descartes' dualism. Dualism in general admits that there are only two kinds of realities that exist in this world. Either there are two kinds of substances or two kinds of properties. But here I want to give a brief description of the substance dualism of Descartes. According to him, two kinds of diametrically opposite substances are mind or immaterial substance and body or material substance. The essence of mind is consciousness, while the essence of the body is extension. For him, no physical substance can think and no mental substance can have extension in space. Therefore, he named mind as res cogitans and body as res extensa. Descartes, in his second meditation, unhesitatingly equated I with res cogitans, the thing that thinks. He writes, I quote, but what then am I? A thing that thinks. What is that? A thing that doubts, understands, affirms, denies, is willing, is unwilling, and also imagines and has sensory perception. Unquote. Though mind and body are diametrically opposite substances, however, Descartes does not have any doubt regarding the causal interaction between them. For him, the body can cause the mind and vice versa. For example, my desire to go outside the room causes my leg to move towards the door of my room. and if my finger cuts, then I feel pain. So he admits a causal connection from both sides, and this is called interactionism of mind and body. The problem of interactionism. We have seen that Descartes made a distinction between mind and body and claimed that they are two independent substances. They have no common attributes. But instead of this, he claims a causal interaction between these two substances. This assertion of him creates a serious problem because it violates the law of conservation of energy. If the non-physical substance, that is mind, could move the body by causal interaction, then the total amount of energy will increase. But the law says that the total amount of energy remains always same because the universe is causally closed. If we admit that the non-physical mind could move the body, then the law of conservation of energy could not be applied to this universe. Descartes tries to solve this problem with the help of the pineal gland, but it does not give a satisfactory explanation. Besides this objection, another charge was given by Princess Elizabeth against substance dualism. The argument is that if mind and body are radically different substances and they have nothing in them common, how causal interaction is possible between them? This objection has some amount of force because, according to science, two physical things can causally interact since they are of the same category. But it is impossible to explain a causal connection between two radically different kinds of substances because interaction is only possible when a thing connects physically with another thing. For example, when one billiard ball is struck by another ball, then the second ball moves. But in Descartes' model, mind and body have no common thing by which they can interact. Though Descartes' dualism has been widely accepted from the perspective of common sense, it lacks a comprehensive explanation when it is viewed from the perspective of science. So, the dualism of Descartes helps to explain the causal interaction between the mind and body. Paul Caesar, in his article titled Mind Consciousness Dualism in Sankhya Yoga Philosophy, claims that Sankhya system of Indian philosophy could be less problematic to solve the mind body problem than Descartes' dualism. Taking some hints from Caesar, let us discuss the primary question of this paper, that is, can the dualism of a Sankhya be a solution to the mind body problem? In this part, we will analyze the concept of a mind in the Sankhya system and compare it with Descartes' conception of a mind. The concept of mind of Sankhya system. Before going to the concept of a mind, it is worth noting that the dualism of a Sankhya is different from the dualism of a Descartes. In the former, there is a distinction between mind and consciousness, whereas in the latter, the distinction is between body and mind, not between mind and consciousness. Descartes has made clear that consciousness only belongs to the mind, nothing else, while Sankhya gives a different status to consciousness. For Sankhya, consciousness belongs to the Purusha, which is pure consciousness. So we have to mark the difference between Sankhya dualism and Descartes dualism. Let us move towards the concept of a mind of Sankhya. The notion of mind of Descartes here corresponds to the combination of three faculties of the evolution of Prakriti, namely Mahat or Buddhi, Ahankara, and Manas. They have their specific functions. Mahat or Buddhi is the first evolution of Prakriti. It has preponderance of Sattva. It is also called the faculty of intellect or reason. It represents the general determination, that is Adhyavasaya, of something as something, the foundation of any act of judging, and may, for the lack of anything better, be called reflectivity. The next part is Ahankara, which is called ego or phenomenal self. It represents the awareness of I and mind, and it relates all mental states to itself. The third faculty is called Manas, which is known as the internal sense organ. Manas is intimately connected with perception. So these three faculties are said as Antahkarana or the inner instrument. This Antahkarana corresponds to the mind of Descartes. But the difference between Descartes' mind and the Antahkarana of Sankhya is that while Descartes' mind is full of consciousness, whereas the Antahkarana is unconscious. Antakarana is unconscious due to being a product of Prakriti, the metaphysical ground of all the material things. It is called Jada or devoid of consciousness. Therefore, Antakarana being a product of it becomes unconscious. If it is so, then a question may come how Sankhya will explain cognition? Because without consciousness, it seems difficult to explain mental activities because they require consciousness. For example, when I say I am in pain, that follows that I am conscious of my pain. Sankhya has given another concept to resolve this problem, which is Purusha. For Sankhya, Purusha is the ground of consciousness, which is known as the unconditioned self, remains unaffected by the activity of Prakriti. Though consciousness belongs to the Purusha only, nonetheless, Buddhi, which is a part of Antakarana, can reflect consciousness on it, because it is made of Sattva constituent, which nature is transparent. Due to this reflection, the unconscious Buddhi seems conscious and the cognitive function takes place. We can relate it by the example of the sun and moon. At night, we perceive the objects with the help of moonlight, but the light of the moon is borrowed from the sun. It is not luminous by itself. Similarly, all the cognitive functions take place when Buddhi reflects the consciousness of Purusha on it. But naturally, the mind of Sankhya is unconscious. In this point of view, it seems plausible if we admit a causal relationship between body and mind, which seemed impossible in Descartes' model. Here, the physical states and mental states are not radically different because they both come out from a single source, that is the Prakriti. So it is better to say Prakriti as a neutral stuff rather than mental or physical. Therefore, the mind can cause to the body and the body can cause to the mind without violating the scientific rule. And in this point of view, we can say that Sankhya's explanation of causal connection is better than Descartes' model. We can conclude our discussion by indicating an objection to the Sankhya model. That is, how could it explain the interaction between Purusha, which is inactive though conscious, and Prakriti, which is active, still lacks consciousness? Sankhya system fails to explain this interaction satisfactorily. In this sense, we can say that the problem of a Descartes dualism between conscious substance and unconscious substance remains unsolved. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jagannath, for your very beautiful paper on the concept of mind from the philosophical reflection of Descartes and Sankhya. And, you know, René Descartes was the first to articulate the mind-body problem or mind-body issue in the current form. And you have shown that how the dualism uh, of Western philosophers may be traced back to Hindu philosophical tradition, particularly in Sankhya philosophy. And you have put your reflective thought on the concept of mind-body issue on Descartes and put your position on Sankhya's dualism of Purusha and Prakriti. And you have also shown that how in Sankhya dualism, Purusha is consciousness. You have also tried to put your stand on Sankhya's perspective, how it may be a solution to the problem of Descartes' interactionism. I don't want to speak much because at last you have also put the objection to Sankhya model. So now it's a beautiful paper, and you have also constructed it very beautifully with the guidance of Professor Pramod Pradas. Now, I would like to request Professor Dr. K. Omnan Rao to have his own observation and to have the interaction with other participants. Over to Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Dr. Moharana. Well, I should thank Jagannath Moharana also for for being so precise in his expression. Well, we have it as Jayanti Madam. Well, Madam, any question, Madam? Your observations and questions. Jayanti Madam is there. She has left. Jayanti Madam. Okay. Anybody in the audience? Anybody? The participants? Any of you? Any of you? Well, Jagannath. Dr. Kailash Maharana, sir. Any observations from your side? Kailash Maharana, sir.
Okay. Now I would like to request Mr. Jagannath. What is his stand in objection to Sankhya model, and in which way he has tried to put his own stand in favor of Sankhya model, or in favor of Cartesian model. That is his stand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your beautiful question. Sir, this solution regarding the interaction between Purusha and Prakriti in Sankhya system is a very serious problem, and but if we relate the relation between mind and body, which seem impossible in Descartes models, now this problem somehow solved. But the central problem here is unsolved, and I support Sankhya system because the scientific explanation which science has given now few years back, it is already stated or it is already elaborated in this system very systematically. Because for Sankhya philosophy, the so-called mind, which seems conscious, but actually it is unconscious, because the faculty that is called buddhi or mahata, it has power to reflect consciousness on it. In this sense, it appears conscious, though it is unconscious. But this thing is missed in Descartes' model. Descartes says that mind without consciousness cannot be thought. That mind is equated with consciousness. But here it is different. That mind can be thought without consciousness.
Okay, Jagannath
Maharana. Hello, Jagannath. Actually,
yes,
the concept of brain, you know that the concept of brain is here in Descartes' philosophy. But can you say that the concept of brain, the relation of brain and mind, is there in Indian philosophy? Has Sankhya accepted the relation between mind and brain? But Descartes has accepted it.
Yes, sir. I have not yet read it, but I definitely mark your point and try to reflect on this issue. But I think that Sankhya system has elaborated the concept of mind by dividing three faculties, that mahata, ahankar, and buddhi. But I think manas may be can be equated with the brain if we try to relate. But how it is correct, I don't know. But it needs further research, sir.
Thanks so much.
Anyway, thank you, Jagannath Moharana. Well, we have Patnaik. We have Manaswini Patnaik raising her hand. She wants to say something. Manaswini Patnaik. She wants to
Sorry,
say
sir.
something.
It's a mistake.
Ah, yes, acha, by mistake, acha. Anyway, well, it's a very clear paper and very nicely done by Jagannath Moharana. Well, we directly move to Professor Das giving the guide. Okay, we can have a picture of the entire scheme. Okay, from Professor Das. Professor Das. Please unmute, sir. Please unmute. Not
Understand.
please unmute.
Okay, Professor Das, unmute yourself. What happens? What happens, Professor Das? No, no. Please unmute yourself. Not possible. Any technical problem? Then, in the meantime, okay, Dr. Rao, please go on.
Anyway, thank you, Jagannath Mahana. Well, I don't have any observations on this. Well, I should say big thanks to Jagannath Mahana for his effort, for his drawing a parallel, bringing in Descartes with Sankhya. Well, still a lot has to be worked on this along with his guide Professor Das. Since both are working in the same college, they can comfortably interact. Okay, do better work on this, and still, a lot of things can come from this. And when Pramod Das sir is there, he can be a good source to find the parallels between the Sankhya and Descartes. Well, one thing I should say, well, Purusha Pratyaya has no localization. But somehow in the Descartesian scheme, we localize the mind in the pineal gland. The similar thing happens in the Samkhya scheme. Purusha is never bound. Purusha is always free, always liberated. Okay, it has no, okay, it is, okay, but in ignorance, out of ignorance, Purusha is brought in linkage with the Prakriti. The way mind, which has its source anyway in the brain, but it is not localized, we try to localize it in the same way. Purusha has been localized, or Purusha has been brought in touch with the Prakriti. So there lies the problem. When Purusha is totally free, okay, it is never bound. So there lies the problem in the Sankhya scheme, similar to the problem that we see in the Descartesian scheme. So this is what I was saying.
Yes,
Thank you.
you are right, sir. Because in the dualistic order, the that relation cannot be maintained. Therefore, the Sankhya is a failure, and Descartes is also a failure. The point is, if there is any type of relation, directly or indirectly, that is a union. Okay, so the dualism is suspended. Suppose we say body interacts upon mind, mind interacts upon body through pineal gland, and by the biological process. There is warmth in our body, because of the warmth there is blood circulation, etc., etc. Scientific explanation is there, but the relation is established somehow or other. That means the dualism is suspended. So mind and body, they will remain distinct to each other, and there will be a relation. It is impossible. So any dualistic order, be in Indian philosophy or Western philosophy, be it Descartes or Sankhya, they have failed to explain the relation between body and mind satisfactorily. Jagannath sir is trying to give the merit to Sankhya philosophy, in the sense that he is saying that two things can be related if they belong to one category. Both mind and body are unconscious, therefore the relation between them is understood. But here, in case of a Descartes, as mind is conscious and body is unconscious, here the relation is not understood in a very systematic way. This is his point. Uh, Also, we can take example of Satkaryavada. Satkaryavada also says that the effect carries the essence of a cause. So I was also discussing with Jagannath sir, rather Sankhya system goes with the Spinozistic parallelism, because this was just discussion with him, because, uh, he has taken a new concept. How it is parallelism? Spinoza said that both body and mind, they are attributes of the same substance. As the source is the same, so they have the same essence, and therefore whenever body acts, mind acts, or something happens to body, that happens to mind. So this way there is a parallelism. Similarly, in Sankhya system, both are the product of a prakriti, and Satkaryavada also says that the cause and the effect carries the essence of the cause. So whatever happens to body, that happens to mind, because both are the product of a prakriti. In this way, we can say Sankhya, Sankhya concept of a relation between body and mind is more Spinozistic than Cartesian. This will be my suggestion to Jagannath sir. If we say Sankhya is better than Descartes, then in in that sense it is better, as Spinoza is better than Descartes, because both body and mind are unconscious, prakriti is unconscious, and both body and mind originate from prakriti. But here what happens in Sankhya, prakriti is unconscious, and body and mind are also unconscious. From unconsciousness originates. But in Spinoza, substance is conscious, and body and mind, they are also attributes of the having the same essence. This is the difference. I just imagine this. I was discussing with Jagannath sir. Sir, Dr. Rao, please speak something about this.
Thank you for new blend. Very nice, very nice. In the Sankhya scheme, the way you spoke, that because Sankhya believes in Satkaryavada, so the effect being always okay, the effect pre-existing in the cause. Okay, so in that scheme, when you take up everything is the evolute of the Prakriti. So this opposition of the conscious and the unconscious, that doesn't lie. If you keep the Purusa totally separate, then this sort of opposition in Prakriti, the mind-body opposition doesn't come in the Sankhya scheme. Very nicely said, sir. Good attempt. Very good attempt. That's it. Congratulations.
This way, this paper can be developed. This way.
Very nicely. Very nicely. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's why I was thinking of your line on this entire structure. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Moharana for the final clue.
Okay. So today, it's my great privilege to extend my thanks to all the
And Jagannath Moharana, all the four papers that were presented really make sense because they are budding scholars and they have a lot of potential. And the paper of Manorana Mahanti, that again has a new dimension. A lot can be thought and it can be expanded very nicely in that scheme, bringing in this psychological energy, which is not much discussed. And it's very a good one, a very good attempt, and it can be very much beautifully developed. And even Ankita Podar, she has a lot of promise, and we have seen her presenting earlier. So she was also good. And coming to Rabindra Pradhan, well, I have met him during my visit to Utkal University. He's a promising he's a promising scholar, and lot of expectations are there from him. And his paper too is also, he is a bit technical. Okay, he's never satisfied with superficial things. He enters into technicalities, and okay, but he requires a bit of more confidence, that which is not somehow there. But with time, he can be grown. He can be groomed. He can be groomed into a better speaker. Okay, he has a lot of promise. He can do. He can deliver. Well, even Jagannath Moharana, because Jagannath Moharana is there with Professor Das. Well, they are working in the same college. Well, Jagannath Moharana has all liberty, all time to discuss with Professor Das, who is filled with a lot of ideas, lot of thoughts, with lot of originalities. Okay, so he has his own bent of thinking, his own line of thinking. So Jagannath Moharana is always blessed having him with for advice, for guidance. So that's how Jagannath Moharana will be can be groomed up with time. And so I congratulate all the speakers for making this evening so nice, so beautiful. And also thanks Ramani Madam for her beautiful questions in the chat box, and Jayanti Sahu Madam for her observations, Dr. Kailas Mahana sir for his beautiful questions, and also coordinating this event so beautifully. And also thank with all love and affection to Professor Pramod Kumar Das, because of whom we could organize this evening's event uh, by contacting. I never knew who is Manorama Mahanti. He came in touch with her, and he guided her so beautifully. So new scholars are pumping into philosophy family, and it is because of purely the effort of Pramod Kumar Das sir. And that's how new scholars are coming to this fold, and it is all learning experience. We are also learning from you. So it's a great exercise. I should thank Professor Das for his attempt in expanding philosophy, in expanding our thought processes. So through mutual give and take. And also thank Dr. Deepak Kumar Behra, very nice scholar, and well, he's an MPC Baripada, very promising scholar. He's teaching philosophy PG students, so he's having a lot of exposure now these days teaching philosophy PG students. So I also thank him for his very good questions in the chat box. So blessed, I should not forget anyone. So I thank everybody for making this evening so beautiful, and I thank one and all the participants for making this special webinar so successful. And so thank everyone involved. Thank you all. Good night. Thank you. Over to Professor Das for the final.